Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with my first Cheeky.studio design team layout for the month of June. And just before this I did the unboxing of everything that I got for the month of June, plus I had ordered some extra stuff, so I think I'm going to be playing with my extra stuff the second layout because I just love the die cuts so much. But this one here is called Wishes, and there's different packages, like there's frames and florals, and there was little bows also that was like in the purplish or lavender or lilac color. And so I'm going to have another layout that I'm using purple this year, and it seems to be my go-to color this year. I'm using a lot of purple and I'm loving it. So the pattern paper in the background was just from Maggie Holmes. I think it was from a paper pad. It was pretty sort of neutral. It was just like off-white with some black polka dots, and I like using pattern papers that are sort of neutral if I'm going to do a little bit of messy stuff. So the first thing I did was I put some clear gesso, I dried it, and then I used some spray mist from Heidi Swap in the purple, and then I did the smooshing technique and I just smooshed it in a couple of areas, and you'll see that I'll add one more area in a bit because I want to have 3 spots where I want to do my embellishment. Now I'm showing you my new cutting mat. I absolutely love it. I got it from Simon Says Stamp, and it's like from the same company that the Gorgeous Girl stamps are made from, and it's Santoro, and it came with a blade. So I'm happy with that because when I go cropping somewhere, I can't bring my big mat, and also cutting on my mat, it was kind of wrecking my mat, and you'll see in future videos I've kind of flipped my mat over, and instead of white lines it's black lines, and I'm going to try to keep it so that it doesn't get all messy. And so there is where I added another section, a third section, and then I took one of my Tim Holtz templates, and then these they're called mousse from Nuvo, and I absolutely love them. So I put that in 3 areas with a round template just to add a little bit of mixed media to my layout. I did cut out my pattern paper to about 11 3/4 by 11 3/4, and I mounted it on the purple cardstock, but not before matting my photo in the middle. Now if you saw, I used my ruler, and what I was doing is I was checking the area in the middle so that I wasn't going to cover all my hard work that I did with my mixed media. Because a lot of times when, I do mixed media stuff and then you start adding pattern papers and this and that, all of a sudden you've covered up all the nice stuff that you've, worked hard on doing. So what I did was I kind of measured the area, and then it determined how big I was going to cut that black pattern paper, because that was one of the only ones that wasn't a scrap, because I ended up using quite a bit of scrap on this layout, which I love doing. I love starting out a layout and going into my scraps and using some of these scraps that are just sitting in my drawers. I need to get those used up. So as you can see, I used that sheet and it had circles on it. This is actually a digital print that you can buy, and then you can print it off as many times as you want. And I used my 1-inch punch, and I punched the 3 circles that was on that sheet, and they were all in the lavender or purple. And then I got some of these, they're like enamel circles, and I got those on either eBay or Amazon or something like that. And they're super cheap. You get them, I think I got 10 sheets, and it was like 100 of them, or even more, 150, and it was like $6 or $7, and they're just called 1-inch epoxy circles. So if you search that, you can get them for super cheap. They take quite a long time to get to you, but it's well worth it. What I did was I ordered a whole bunch, and now I'm probably good for, not life, but pretty close. And then once I punched the circles, those 1-inch epoxy circles fit perfectly right on top of it, so I made my own flare. Now I had this scrap of cardstock and I had this scrap of embellishment that, I could have journaled in the middle, but we have so many of these sequins in our stash, and I got some again for part of my June kit, so I decided to make a shaker box. So I'm going to take that little piece of leftover that I had. It was just a cut apart from a sheet, so like a little 3x4 card, and instead of using that white inside that piece to do some journaling, I'm going to cut it out, and then it's going to become a window. And I'm just trying to get used to that new knife that I have. Like I said, the knife did come with that mat, and it's about, I think it's 8 or 9 by 13, so it's a nice size to bring to crops, and that's what I wanted. So first I'm going to go find some like a clear piece of plastic, and then I'm going to use my 1/4-inch score tape, and I'm just going to make it so that it's super sticky, because score tape is it's like a stronger adhesive than your regular ATG. I'm going to put it down onto that plastic sheet, and then I'm going to cut around, and that's going to be my little window. Then I'm going to take my 3M foam tape, and that is just like the kind that you can buy at Staples or something like that. I had bought that before I bought my huge rolls, and it was still in my stash, and I thought, you know what, you need to use those up. And I started using them in March, and I've already used an entire roll, and I'm almost done my second roll, and they're like $5 or $6 a piece. So in 2 months I've already spent like the $10. So if you can get those huge rolls for a good amount, like $40 or something like that, they're well worth the price, because at this point I'm basically averaging a roll about a month and a half of the smaller ones. So that would mean, like, let's say 2, so 6 times 5, that would be $30 a year. So, and the big roll lasts me about 3 years. So now I, made my little box with my 3M foam, and then I'm going to find it's not high enough, so I'm going to add a second layer of it. And then I added some sequins, and then I also added some die cuts, because I didn't want just sequins, I wanted a little bit of ephemera in there. So I added some little roses, and then so when you look at the little shaker box, it's going to have some sequins and some little roses. And I'm adding, see, that's where I open the second one there. And so I really like those shaker boxes. It's kind of cute. When you have your little, on your page, you can kind of shake it and it moves around, and I like putting ephemera inside. Now when I remove the tape, some of my sequins jumped and stuck on the sticky part, but that's okay. It's not much. And then I just took a piece of scrap white cardstock, and then I just put it in the back, and my little shaker box is done. Okay, so the shaker box is done, so now it's time to start gluing down the pattern papers. At first I thought, you know what, I'm just going to staple it because it's nice and where I need it to be, but my Tim Holtz stapler didn't reach, so I just took my time and just glued down the layers the way I want them. And then I had a scrap of that purple pattern paper, and I just cut it down so that it looks like a banner. And between my photo and my shaker box, it fills out that scrap of cardstock nicely, just so it has a nice border all the way around. Now that the base of my layout is done, it's time to start playing with embellishments. So I opened pretty much all the packages of embellishments, and I'm trying to see which one I can use. Now I really like taking frames and just cutting them in half, and I like how it just kind of fits snugly there under the photo and under that shaker box. And now I'm going to, take some other embellishments and see where I can place them. Now, because I did, some smooshing and some adding of some almost like modeling paste, it's called some Nouveau Mousse, I kind of have already an idea where I want to put some of my embellishments. So I'm going to put some close to that shaker box because it's close to that, the where I put the Nouveau Mousse and the smooshing. And then the second one is where I'm going to put the top left, and I have some Nouveau Mousse there too and some smooshing. And the third one is where I decided to put the last of it. So now I'm going to take, the embellishments. When I go through it, I try to see which ones I could use as my embellishment foundation. So basically, what is going to ground the entire embellishment cluster. So the one where I, have the shaker box. The shaker box is kind of my embellishment foundation, but then I took that frame and it has this nice cluster of flower on it. So it's basically done for you. And then I'm going to take some of the flares that I made myself, punching those circles and adding the clear epoxy stickers onto it. And I'm going to also add a little bow to each of the embellishment clusters. Okay, so once I was done that, I didn't like how that top right corner, I don't know, it just felt kind of jarring. It was just too squarish. So I decided to put in an extra embellishment cluster. So that'll be my fourth one, and that's fine because I haven't decided on a title for this. I haven't decided yet. Something like Girl Time or something to that effect, and I will put the title snugging up against that embellishment cluster. And I like to put an embellishment cluster with my title. I like doing that, but I just haven't decided what my title is yet. So I'll figure it out and put it right next to that cluster, but it just kind of finishes off that corner. I didn't like how squarish and kind of, I don't know, it was just too harsh to the eye. So I added again an embellishment foundation. Then I added 3 flowers and I overlaid them, and then I'm going to add another little bow, and then I'm going to add some sequins, not a lot, I think 1 or 2 per cluster, just to add some sequins to all the clusters. And then my journaling, I think I'm going to make it so that it's right next to that shaker box. So between the shaker box and where my title is going to be on that pink pattern paper. And then I'm going to cover my photo, and I'm going to take the same ink that I did my smooshing with and add some splatters, and that's it. That's going to complete my layout. So if you want to find out more about Cheeky.studio, I'll have all the information in the description box below. And if you use Nicole Jones 911, you can get 10% off your first order. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit subscribe. I have over 700 process videos. And if you're enjoying these videos, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up and maybe leave me a comment down below. And if you want to be notified of when I post a new video, they have this new thing where you can click on the little bell and it will let you know when I post a new video. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.